you very much, Marie. Once again, a very warm welcome to this webinar on cultural mobility for sustainable cultural cooperation working towards solutions. This webinar is organized by the International Music Council, On the Move, Zone Franche, Pearl, Culture et Développement, Africalia, MOBICULTURE. It is co-funded by the European Union and part of the rich program of side events of MONDIACULT 2025, the UNESCO World Conference on Culture Policies and Sustainable Development. I would like to welcome all of you and, of course, our distinguished speakers and colleagues, Pierre, Claver, Mabiala, Director of the Espace Culturel Yaro, Republic of Congo, Kelly Magnus, Executive Director of the Caribbean Cultural Fund of Jamaica, and Hang Nguyen, founder of the Irvine Residency Network from Vietnam. Thank you for being with us. Our aim for this 1-hour webinar is to, based on the knowledge of our partners, our speakers, and all of you in the room, to work towards the creation of more sustainable and fruitful frameworks for cultural cooperation, while facilitating the recurring and complex visa issues that hinder cross-border artistic mobility between developed and developing countries, as well as between developing countries. I should also like to note that the idea for this webinar, which we want to focus on solutions for change, arose from a joint call made by the International Music Council, Zone Franche, Culture et Développement, Pearl, and Africalia at the last Intergovernmental Committee meeting of the 2005 UNESCO Convention on the Promotion and the Protection of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions, which took place in February 2025. And since we are in the framework of MONDIACULT, I would like to start with some good news. We have been able to put our hands on, hopefully, the final version of the outcome document for MONDIACULT, which is supposed to be adopted at the MONDIACULT conference. And under the heading of cultural economy and decent work, among the priorities defined for culture policies in the future, there's one point that is, for us, very important. And it reads, strengthening to the extent possible within national and international frameworks, national, regional, and international mobility for artists and culture professionals, especially from developing countries, fostering opportunities for professional growth, collaboration, cultural exchange, and access to international markets. With this, I also would like to, as an introduction, provide some facts. As I said, we built this webinar on the knowledge of our partners. Many organizations, including partners around the table, have produced for the past few years numerous reports and statements in relation to visa rejections and longer examination processes. Let me just name a few. In 2023, On the Move issued a report titled Schengen Visa Code and Cultural Mobility, Latest Insights, with a focus on artists and culture professionals from the African continent. This report was produced in collaboration with Pearl, Alba Culture, Zone Franche, Mobility Info Points, and the International Music Council, and it was part of the Deconfining project. The report highlights not only the financial and networking losses of visa rejections, both for the artists and the host organizations, but also the negative impact on the mental health of the concerned artists and culture professionals. Stress, anxiety, feeling of rejections, among others. Data from the Comité Visa Artiste in France, provided by Zone Franche, also speak for themselves. 2 years ago, this committee could solve 70% of visa cases in France. However, since the beginning of 2025, this figure has fallen to 40%, despite much effort and persistence to overcome diverse communication barriers. It is increasingly common for the same countries that fund mobility programs to be the same ones that block the entry of artists who are due to benefit from residencies or take part in festivals financed by the same public funds. On the Move also reports structural imbalances. Although their monitoring system is international, 75% of the funding relayed on the Move website nevertheless comes from public or private structures located in Europe, and particularly in Western and Northern Europe. And more than 35% of administrative questions concern visa and work permits. This session aims, therefore, to shed light on the scope of the challenges, not only in the sense of south to north mobility, but even more so to highlight solutions that can be activated at national, governmental levels, as well as by the sector itself. And I would like to turn now to our distinguished speakers and invite them to flag one particular point or challenge they see at international or regional level. In order to save time, I would like to let you know that we are sharing each speaker's bio in the chat. Again, please note that Pierre, Claver, Mabiala will speak in French, so be prepared to switch to translation when he speaks. I would like to first turn to Hang Nguyen, as I said, founder of the Irvine Residency Network from Vietnam, to invite her to let us know about the challenges that she sees from her perspective. Hang, the floor is yours.
Okay, so can you hear me clearly? Is this okay? The audio is okay? Hello.
Yes, you can. You can speak, Hang. It's working well.
We can hear you well, Hang.
Okay. Sorry, because like yeah, I thought that my internet connection has some problem. Okay, so hello everyone. So my name is Hang Nguyen, and I'm the founder of the Artists in Residence Vietnam Network, EVI, and also like a member of On the Move Network. And today I would like to share a very recent case studies that illustrates the challenge artists from the global south and maybe like in also in from Vietnam and face in the accessing the cultural mobility even when they are very even when the artist is also very well established. So earlier this year, so we have Vietnamese artist named Vũ Kim Thư was invited to a 6-week residency at the Schloss Werdenberg in Switzerland. So Thư is a highly regarded artist in Vietnam with a steady teaching position at a university, and she has already participated in residencies in Italy, United States, Japan, and many other countries. Yet, despite her professional standing, she was suddenly told that her visa application could not be processed as expected. So like other Vietnamese artists before her, so she applied for a short-term cultural visa. It's short for the C visa from the Switzerland embassy, which had worked in similar case. However, so after more than 2 weeks, the Swiss consulate in Vietnam informed her that she would need a work permit instead. So this contradicted the federal guidelines updated in January 2025, which Maria from On the Move sent me and advised me, and and the federal guidelines clearly state that residencies under 3 months are not considered gainful employment. So by the contract, for example, like her Vietnamese peers, such as other as manager and artists, has previously taken part in the Swiss residency under Swiss visa without such a problems. But in their case, the invitation came from Pro Helvetia. I hope that like you already know about the Pro Helvetia. So like the invitation came from the Pro Helvetia Switzerland Cultural Foundation, whose programs are explicitly recognized as the exceptions in the law. And then this create kinds of the international, how can I say, like institutional hierarchy of legitimacy, where invitations from one body are trusted, but those from other host organizations face a higher scrutiny. And even eventually after the much stress of the uncertainty, so Mr. Tu received her visa. Like I had to send emails back and forth with the embassies. But like then 1 week later, she received her visa 1 week later than planned, and forcing her to reschedule all of her travel and also like financial losses. So the embassy explained that her residency document contained the elements that could be interpreted as a gainful employment, and that agreements need to be more carefully aligned with guidelines in the future. So I think that like the challenge I want to identify is this, like even for the established artists with steady jobs and also like international experience, mobility is very fragile. It is shaped not only by rules, but also by interpretation, timing, and whether the host institution is seen as having enough credibility. Yes.
Thank you
So I
very
think
much.
that is for my case, yes.
Thank you very much, Hang, for sharing this very specific case study, highlighting the need. I mean, also the challenge of host organizations in relation to invited artists. And I would like to, without further ado, I would like to invite Kelly Magnus to share her perspective on challenges with regard to mobility from her perspective as executive director of the Caribbean Cultural Fund in Jamaica. Kelly, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning or afternoon, and thank you to Maria and the On the Move team for having me in this important conversation. I'll echo much of what Han said. The Caribbean Culture Fund works with creatives and cultural organizations across the Caribbean. So we're dealing with many different linguistic groups and countries under different types of governance. So some are overseas territories of European countries, some are independent countries. And what we're seeing across the board is an inconsistent, long, and often expensive process for artists to secure visas in much the way that Han described. And those issues vary across countries depending on their governance states. But I do want to flag two other issues that are at play before visas become problematic. One is there just seems to be a real inequity in access to information about opportunities across artists. So information tends to travel in very proscribed circles, meaning that some creatives and cultural organizations never learn of these opportunities and are denied the chance to benefit from the kinds of experiences that more established artists have access to. And then there is a significant challenge in terms of capacity for completing the documentation required. In some countries in the Caribbean, we're dealing with issues of conflict, so it's not possible to get state identification, to get passports updated, to get letters of recommendation that are required for visa processes. And there is quite a bit of bias towards text literacy. So people who have those functional skills are better able to pursue those opportunities than others. And so these are some of the issues that the Caribbean Culture Fund has been trying to deal with in terms of identifying partners across the region who can both help us to create new residencies that have more fluid and flexible access issues, and then support creatives in applying for the existing residencies.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for highlighting the obstacles for artists and cultural professionals, obstacles in terms of access to information, but also obstacles in terms of their own skills to provide the documents, but also to understand the very complex application process. Thank you very much for highlighting this aspect, and you also echoed the issue of the long and expensive process for application itself that was also already mentioned by Hang. Thank you very much already for sharing this. And I would like to give the floor now to Pierre Claver Mabiala, Director of the Espace Culturel Yaro. I will switch to French also for this occasion. Bonjour Pierre Claver. J'espère que, comme on se connaît, on peut se tutoyer avec votre permission. Donc, Pierre Claver Mabiala, directeur de l'espace culturel Yaro, basé à Pointe-Noire en République de Congo. Pierre Claver, quelle est ton appréciation de ces défis dont on parle aujourd'hui? Je ne l'entends pas.
Pierre, on ne vous entend pas là. Je pense que c'est comme tout à l'heure. Peut-être qu'il faut que vous remettiez votre micro ou la question de l'audio par rapport à l'interprétariat, s'il vous plaît.
Là, ça marche.
Oui, ça marche. Super. Thank you.
Désolé, voilà.
Allez.
Donc, je disais que merci beaucoup pour avoir été associé à ce webinaire. Et puis, voilà. Parlant de mobilité, moi, j'ai essayé de concocter trois petits passages. Premier passage, c'est la mobilité entre zones à l'intérieur de l'Afrique, entre deux zones, deux régions différentes. Donc, vous savez que c'est vrai qu'il y a eu des efforts qui ont été faits entre les sous-régions, où il y a pratiquement plus de visas dans une même sous-région. Mais entre deux sous-régions en Afrique, il y a encore des visas entre certains pays. Je prends par exemple le cas, si vous partez du Burundi, des artistes du Burundi qui peuvent arriver au Congo-Brazzaville, il n'y a pas d'ambassade du Congo-Brazzaville au niveau du Burundi. Donc, ces artistes-là, quand ils sont invités, ils doivent faire un premier voyage qui n'était pas prévu et parfois qui coûte de l'argent pour arriver au Rwanda ou dans un autre pays où il y a l'ambassade du Congo, du pays qui les invite, pour aller prendre un visa. Et il faut dire aussi que parfois, on n'est pas sûr de l'avoir. Voilà. Donc, et ça crée aussi des situations difficiles, économiquement parlant aussi, et de logistique aussi, qui peuvent faire que parfois les artistes peuvent abdiquer parce qu'évidemment, c'est très compliqué. Voilà. L'autre petit sujet que je devrais aussi aborder, c'est par rapport à la mobilité à l'intérieur d'une même sous-région. Dans les sous-régions, et pourtant, il y a quelque chose de bien, comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure, il n'y a plus de visa, beaucoup de sous-régions n'ont plus de visa. En Afrique centrale, par exemple, la CEMAC, il n'y a pas de visa entre les États de la CEMAC. Mais sauf qu'il s'avère que cette mesure-là annulation de visa n'est pas accompagnée sur un certain nombre de faits de terrain qu'on peut croiser sur le terrain. Il arrive souvent que nous, on a fait un projet qu'on appelle RAC, la route de l'artiste en Afrique centrale, donc qui a favorisé avec une cartographie qui donne des informations aux artistes pour aller d'un pays à un autre par la route, parce qu'évidemment l'avion coûte très cher. Et ça a beaucoup renforcé, parce que je pense que de 2002 à 2024-25 aujourd'hui, il y a eu plus d'une vingtaine de compagnies qui ont circulé par route et puis ça continue, ça bouge de partout. Mais sauf que les fonctionnaires sur les frontières ont créé des petites taxes injustifiées. Donc, il faut débourser 1000 francs par là, 2000 par là. Et ça coûte aussi cher aux artistes. Et parfois, c'est sujet à beaucoup de discussions parce que ces fonctionnaires-là sont parfois très, très, très violents vis-à-vis des artistes qui ont une logique de tournée, qui sont en train de partir, qui peuvent à un moment être confrontés à une situation où ils peuvent manquer un bus, ils peuvent manquer une correspondance et ça crée des difficultés sur la suite de leur voyage. Donc voilà, la mobilité, elle est là, elle est favorisée mais il arrive encore la volonté humaine de quelques fonctionnaires zélés qui essaient d'imposer un certain nombre de taxes sur la route, et ça ne facilite pas la chose. Le dernier volet, c'est un peu sur la mobilité Afrique-Europe. Euh, Évidemment, aujourd'hui, vous savez que dans beaucoup d'ambassades, surtout européens, et ils ont même confié le traitement de visa ou enfin l'accueil des demandeurs de visa à des agences. Et il y a parfois des situations qui, la spécificité évidemment du secteur de la culture, des acteurs de la culture, le mode de fonctionnement, parfois pose problème. On arrive souvent qu'un comédien, un musicien, qu'on puisse lui demander un certain nombre d'éléments, comme si, de la même façon qu'on demande à un fonctionnaire de l'administration publique qui part en mission, de la même façon qu'on demande à un cadre d'une multinationale qui va en vacances ou qui va en mission, compte bancaire qui doit être alimenté, bulletin de salaire, un certain nombre de choses, beaucoup de choses, et parfois qui s'avèrent compliquées. Un billet d'avion en amont, une police d'assurance avant, et parfois c'est difficile. La spécificité du secteur parfois ne permet pas ça. Et parfois, on vous demande les moyens de prise en charge, alors que vous avez une lettre d'invitation et la lettre d'invitation parfois stipule là-dedans que on prend en charge l'hébergement, on prend en charge la restauration, on prend en charge le déplacement, mais on vous exige d'apporter de l'argent liquide, de justifier d'un certain nombre de choses. Donc tout ça, c'est des éléments parfois qui compliquent le traitement d'un dossier et qui fait que parfois la structure qui invite a du mal quand on lui renvoie, quand on lui demande ces informations-là, a du mal. Ou alors quand on décide de le faire, ça prend du retard et soit le visa, il est refusé, ou alors le visa, il arrive, mais après la période de l'activité, donc ce qui pose préjudice par rapport à l'artiste. Voilà un peu les trois petits cas que j'avais concoctés pour pouvoir et notre contribution à ce webinaire. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Pierre Claver, pour ce partage aussi d'expériences avec des exemples de défis qui se présentent au niveau de la mobilité entre sous-régions en Afrique. Donc, vous avez mentionné les besoins des fois de se rendre dans un autre pays pour demander un visa, ce qui représente un surcoût pour les artistes, les professionnels de la culture. Vous avez mentionné aussi que malgré l'abolition de visa dans une sous-région, vous avez mentionné l'Afrique centrale avec les dispositifs de la CEMAC. Malgré cela, sur le terrain, il y a d'autres obstacles qui se présentent avec des taxes, on va dire, arbitraires qui sont demandées. Et vous avez aussi noté donc le manque de compréhension par le personnel consulaire des ambassades de la spécificité des conditions de travail en fait des artistes et des professionnels de la culture quand il s'agit d'expliquer, de présenter les documents, le dossier, etc. Je vais continuer en anglais, donc si vous voulez reswitcher. So thank you again to the three speakers for sharing your experience, demonstrating some of the structural imbalances that affect cross-border and transcontinental movements. In the culture sector, we have heard about financial losses caused by visa rejections. We have also heard about the symbolic impact of discriminatory trust gaps. We noted the lack of funding and diplomatic support for mobility that can be highly expensive within a region, the difficulty to take up opportunities at short notice due to a rather lengthy application process. Again, the lack of embassies that cause artists to travel to another country to apply for visa, and which only a few can actually afford. Arbitrary taxes when traveling by road from one country to another. The lack of knowledge of consular staff about the realities of the working conditions for artists and culture professionals. And we have also heard about lack of skills and competence and access in the sector itself to information and with regard to visa procedures. As I said, in my introduction, we would like to focus today on solutions to address these challenges. And among the partners organizing this webinar, we know that these solutions exist. Some have been implemented, tested. I would like to mention the mobility info points. I already mentioned the Comité Visa Artiste. I would also like to mention a lexicon for consular and ministerial staff regarding mobility of artists and culture professionals, notably for travel to the Schengen space, and also a guide for visa applications for hosting organizations. We would need these to be more widely expanded, of course, but let us hear first from our speakers about their recommendations for practicable and actionable solutions. And I would like to start this time with Pierre Claver. Pierre Claver, voilà, je vous redonne je te redonne la parole pour nous partager ton point de vue concernant donc les solutions qu'on peut activer au niveau national, sous-régional ou international. Merci d'avance. Pierre, je pense qu'on a le même problème. Est-ce que tu peux... Voilà, c'est parfait. On t'entend
Là, ça
bien.
va?
Merci beaucoup. Oui, c'est parfait. Voilà. Merci.
Désolé. J'ai un nouveau casque, mais voilà. Peut-être qu'il n'a pas encore commencé à bien accepter ma machine. En termes de solutions, évidemment, je vais aller très vite. Sur le premier point donc, de la mobilité entre deux régions différentes, je pense que les choses faciles à faire et qui peuvent aller très vite, c'est si les États décident d'une raison ou une autre de pouvoir maintenir la solution comme ça, c'est au moins de pouvoir favoriser que les visas puissent se prendre en ligne. Je crois que ça se fait maintenant de plus en plus. C'est-à-dire, et aussi, on peut aussi faire de telle sorte que les visas puissent se prendre à l'arrivée. Je crois que ça aussi, c'est des facilités qui sont en train de se faire, qui peuvent très bien faciliter les choses. Et alors, la solution aussi serait que, bah, évidemment, pourquoi pas avec l'Union africaine, avec les États, par rapport à évidemment cette mobilité en Afrique, l'intégration africaine, bah, qu'on parle carrément d'abolition de visa. Moi, je pense que ça peut être quelque chose d'intéressant. Sur le deuxième volet de mon intervention, qui est celui de la CEMAC, évidemment, parlant de cas que j'ai parlé par rapport à la route, au niveau de la vision de la future politique culturelle de la CEMAC, la stratégie qui est en train d'être élaborée. Dans les travaux de préparation, on avait parlé aussi de la prise en compte de cette mobilité-là par la route qui, évidemment, favorise l'intégration, qui permet aussi de desservir plusieurs régions d'Afrique, surtout les localités enclavées, la mobilité par la route des artistes et des acteurs culturels qui a été encouragée. Donc moi, je pense que c'est à travers ces mesures-là qu'on puisse vraiment accompagner ces mesures-là par des faits de terrain. Il y a la police de la CEMAC, par exemple, qui existe au niveau de l'Afrique centrale, qui peut évidemment veiller pour pouvoir faire à ce que ces aspects de choses-là ne puissent plus exister. Donc ça, c'est toutes les hiérarchies qu'ils font. En tant qu'acteur culturel aussi, il y a des mouvements qui se font un peu par rapport à mener des plaidoyers pour que les choses puissent avancer. Mais vraiment, au niveau des États, ça peut partir du niveau politique pour pouvoir avoir des effets sur le terrain. Sur le dernier aspect, évidemment, moi, je pense qu'il y a eu des études qui ont été produites, des recommandations aussi qui ont été faites. Il y a l'étude On the Move, il y a Zone Franche qui en ont parlé. Moi, je pense qu'il faut insister dans le sens que les personnels des ambassades, des services consulaires, les agences qu'ils emploient pour pouvoir travailler sur les traitements de visa puissent être formés, puissent être sensibilisés sur un certain nombre de spécificités, comment fonctionne évidemment un certain nombre de métiers. Moi, je pense que ça doit déjà se faire aussi facilement dans certains domaines comme le sport, ainsi de suite. Je crois qu'on peut aussi avoir ce regard-là sur ce qu'est des questions du secteur de la culture. Voilà ce que moi.
Merci beaucoup, Pierre Claver. Si je peux juste rebondir sur le dernier point, J'ai mentionné en passant ce lexique qui a été produit par On the Move en collaboration avec Africalia et Pearl, il me semble, vraiment un lexique pour aider le personnel consulaire et ministériel aussi de justement comprendre ces conditions, les spécificités des conditions de travail et de mobilité des artistes et des professionnels de la culture. J'ai bien noté aussi donc cette volonté déjà déclarée dans les politiques culturelles ou dans la future politique culturelle de la CEMAC pour une meilleure prise en compte de la mobilité, ainsi que tes propositions, recommandations pour une plus grande application de visas en ligne ou des visas à l'arrivée. Donc, merci beaucoup pour ces suggestions, recommandations. And I will switch back to English and let you give you time to switch also. And I would like to give the floor back to Hang from Vietnam, but joining us from Brazil today, mobility. So Hang, if you could share with us your perspective on possible solutions that you see.
So I think that I really appreciate about what Kelly has said in the highlight the challenge about also about the emerging artists, and I also would like to address as well. And so working with On the Move, especially with Maria, so I learned a lot about how to how can I say how to gain about the database and also precedent cases. So when the difficulties arise, so it is powerful to be able to say this has happened before or this has never happened before. So evidence creates accountability, and it raises the awareness and help us to boost forward to the explanations and hopefully so maybe the systemic solution in the future. And so for my case, so I think that the first thing will be very clarity in the agreements and documentation. So residency contracts so need to carefully frame artistic research and non-commercial cultural activity. So they are not how can I say, misinterpreted as a gainful employment, and then clearer language protects both the artist and also the host of residency. And also the second one is that we need to have an advanced consultation with the network and the embassies organizations. For example, On the Move can help review the agreements in line with the migration rules. And from outside, we must approach the embassies early, introduce ourselves as organization, and build trust by sharing our mission and check records. And at AVI, and I'm also the director of Hanogrepai, an art organization has been was established in the 2009. So we have learned that once embassy recognize you as a credible cultural actor, so they are more open to supporting artists connected to you. So as I mentioned before, so for example, building trust with embassy, and so since 2019, so from 6 years ago through Hanoi, we built a program called Hanoi Graphite Finest. And I can send you the link here with the digital publication. So I also have the publication of what we did here. So this is program that this is a program that we build a digital archive of emerging artists and cultural projects in Vietnam, and this is the only program of its kind in the country. So it provides a visibility, recognition, and credibility that can later be used when the recommending artists for visa. So it is not only for example an honoring award, but also a database that's strengthened for the advocacy. So whenever we approach with a new artist or young artist, you can say that they are very active and emerging artists that are already recognized by us from our program, and then you can see we very carefully documented their activity throughout the year. And also for the last but not least that we should using the precedent case strategically. So networks like Airwise, or I think that similar apply to the Pierre and Kelly. So we must each case successfully or like failed visa applications, so that like when the new difficulties appear, we can agree with the reference like to what has already been accepted. So that will make it harder for authorities to dismiss artists like arbitrarily. So I think that like that's my like proposal for the solution. And then like I think about like we need to create the ecosystem of trust and supported by the evidence. And if database and precedents are maintained collectively, then artists like especially emerging one and or like the one who is without the institutional backing can benefit from the credibility and advocacy for the network. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hang, for highlighting these points. You spoke a lot about trust building, which also goes through the work of networks such as yours that build evidence about the work of artists, that give visibility to these artists and also recognition. But at the same time, indeed, as you said, build the trust also vis-a-vis embassies towards these artists. And the need to create evidence with cases, why did they fail, but also to use cases in order to appeal to the decision that was taken. I understand from you. And also very interesting, I noted your very concrete recommendation also to be very careful when writing the contracts for residencies, be very clear about the non-commercial character of these residencies, which will avoid misinterpretation, misunderstanding during the visa application process. Thank you very much, Hang, for these points. And with this, I would like to turn to Kelly, going to Jamaica, to hear your perspective and your suggestions for solutions for change.
Pierre and Hong have made it very easy for me, right? Because I just get to say I agree with all of their suggestions. But for us at the Caribbean Culture Fund, we see it as needing to do two things at the same time. So one is try to strengthen access to existing opportunities, which I think Pierre and Hong have talked about a lot. And the other is creating new opportunities that might work better for artists in our context. And that really means looking at more opportunities for South-South cooperation and creating and supporting residency opportunities in countries that it's easier and creative access. With regard to the former, as I said, where we start is with addressing the inequity to information. So who even knows about these opportunities? And in that regard, I think a lot of the resources that On the Move has prepared are really helpful. And we see our role as being, as working to amplify those, making people know about those. So we circulate a lot of the funding opportunities that are in the Caribbean Cultural Mobility Report, right? Making sure that our stakeholders know about them. And starting in October, we'll be offering a service that supports creatives in applying for third-party grants. So they can not only apply to the fund directly, but we will help them to apply for third-party grants. We are also collating a database of funding opportunities for Caribbean creatives and cultural organizations that is going to be available through our website. And then third, a big part of our work is advocacy. I think the most important thing that we're sort of talking around but not saying with our whole chest, as the kids say, is that creatives need to travel, right? That's what we're saying when we talk about cultural mobility. Creatives need to travel, to meet each other, to collaborate. And we think this is important. And if we think it's important, we need to advocate for funding specifically for that purpose. Sometimes travel is an allowable budget line within a larger grant, but we need more grant opportunities specifically for creatives to travel with the flexibility that addresses a lot of the challenges that Hang and Pierre have talked about. And so we are working on that, but also working to support a new kind of network and residency opportunity within the Caribbean. We fund residencies and fellowships specifically, and also fund Caribbean collaboration, which specifically looks at opportunities between different Caribbean countries and the Caribbean and the global Black diaspora. So as I said, from the Culture Fund's perspective, we want to try to work on improving access to what's there, but also creating new models that might work better for our audiences.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for these suggestions. As you said, create more access, but create also new opportunities for creatives. I also noted your work to amplify the information that is provided by partners such as On the Move. You mentioned the report, the Caribbean Culture Mobility Report, and thank you for sharing the link to this report in the chat. Also, you mentioned advocacy, and this is really, really important for us. And what we do today is actually our advocacy, our collective advocacy. We need to speak about it. And we also need to underline what you have flagged, that creatives need to travel. It is not, it's far from being a choice. It is a need for creatives to find something somewhere where, because at local level they wouldn't find it, to create new opportunities, to expand networks, etc. So to really develop this advocacy, to make people understand that it is a need, it's a vital need for creative to be with other people and to expose his, her art, their art, and to connect, to exchange, to engage with others elsewhere. Thank you very much for flagging this. And with this, I would like to open the floor to the audience. Please don't hesitate to already, or maybe you have already, put some questions and suggestions in the chat. I would like to turn to Marie to help me maybe point specific questions. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you very much, Celia, and thank you very much to Pierre, Kelly, and Hong for your very valuable and to the point also like contribution, particularly as far as key recommendation and actionable, I would say, recommendation are concerned. I see two main comments so far. So first of all, thank you very much for the level of attendance as well. It's rare to see that, the comparison between the number of registered participants and the people that come is quite close. So it's a good sign, and it's also a sign that the situation is very challenging. I would say there are mostly, for the moment, one comment, one question by Amin that say that really appreciate the exchange of information in this meeting, and this question is more about his experience. Last year, he got a Type C visa available for 1 year, and due to consecutive participation in a number of artistic residency and festival, he exceeded the 30 days period. I think we are more talking here in Schengen context. His question is more whether it will affect his future application for visa. And the other comment is by Christine. I mean, it's more a comment, a sharing of experience, a nice collaboration project between IKS Africa and Barbados in Caribbean. So it's quite interesting here to see more south to south type of mobility experience. And as Kelly also mentioned, and all of you mentioned, it's very important also to record this kind of experience as well. As we see, south to south mobility support is very much challenged at different fronts. I would say that the question of Amin can be eventually answered by some mobility info points that are present in the room. So eventually they can also share their perspective, and one of them can take the floor. I know, of course, that Anaïs Lukács from MOBICULTURE in France is represented here. And for, I would say that eventually as well, this question can be addressed in a separate form of consultation. And for the question and suggestion that you may have, maybe they can be also in relation with some form of advocacy type of comment and suggestion, because we are still in this within the scope also of this MONDIACULT event. So the more practical and actionable recommendation we can bring, also the best it is for the follow-up of this webinar. Anaïs, maybe if you want to answer Amin, maybe in a concise manner, knowing that eventually you can have a bilateral conversation with him. Thank you.
I think that will be the best, because maybe that's not the better placed to answer specific questions like this, but this is specific our role as mobility info points. So don't hesitate to contact us. So following the portal Marie put in the chat. So we are members of On the Move, and we're based in different countries. So don't hesitate to contact me, for example, and I work for the French Mobility Info Point, and we can go on this specific issue you had. Till soon, bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Amin, because we are really in one of the situations that really need also this tailor-made approach. And this is also what mobility info point are about. And that's the reason why also we are advocating for the number to be increased in Europe, but also internationally, of course. There is a very I mean, everything is interesting, of course, but there is a very interesting question by Farah. Farah, I hope it's okay that I read it. So given the current political climate in Europe and the growing influence of far right across the West, I am concerned that visa application and cultural mobility, especially for artists, will become increasingly difficult. Have you recently encountered any situation where visa procedure were actually easier for artists, in your experience, opinion? And also, is cultural mobility between the global south and the West improving, or the challenge increasing? Here, maybe one of the speakers would like to answer, and I am quite sure that among the partners, some people may take the floor. So in that case, among the partners, like Africalia, Pearl, Zone Franche, Culture and Development, if one of you want to address also this question, feel free to switch on your camera, but maybe Kelly, Pierre, or Hong, you want also to comment on that.
May I answer? Actually, this is very timely question. So in my experience, the answer is both. There are situations where the mobility is improving, and others where it is become more difficult. So for example, on the other hand, I have seen the encouraging developments, which I mentioned about the case study. The case study that I mentioned before, because I merely sent me the Switzerland, the new federal guidelines that came into effect just like in January 2025, clearly stated that the artists in residence staying under the 3 months are not considered the gainful employment. And also in my case, so last year, for example, I applied for the residency in Taiwan as I received the fellowship, and actually Vietnamese visa, I didn't got the full the length of stay for my visa from the Taiwan Economics and Culture Office in Vietnam. But then after I sending them email and explain the artists in residency, so this year they gave the full length visa for the artists who recommended by the AVI already. And also I encountered several cases, not only in the East Asia but also in Europe. But meanwhile, for example, the obstacle can stay the broader political climate in Europe and also extended to the United States. So with the very far right influence, so they will have the stricter migration policies. So for example, we are working with sending the 4 Vietnamese artists to the US right now, and the procedure is extremely difficult to proving that they will have the financial substance during for 3 months they will stay there, have residency, and also for the exhibition, and I mean for the each artist. So I think that it's not only applied to the global south, but also applied to the more also other countries. So we are facing the same challenge. And so I think that like the opportunities are expanding, as Kelly already mentioned about, like we are making like easier access opportunity for the artists, but also at the same time that like we have to how can I say, like to work with the cultural networks to document case and then like maintain the active dialogue with the embassy and the host institution. So that way, like when the new barrier appears, so we can respond with the evidence and then like, do the advocacy.
Thank you very, very much, Hang. It's also very good to have that kind of situation illustrated with some example. I know that before I pass eventually the word to Kelly and Pierre and back to Celia, Valeria Marcolin, the director of the association Culture and Development, who is also one of the key partners for this webinar, would like to take the floor. Yeah, Valeria, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, Marie. Je vais rester en français pour accès équitable à la diversité linguistique. Et merci beaucoup aux interprètes qui nous suivent. Donc, je vais essayer aussi d'y aller doucement. Tu l'as rappelé brièvement, Marie, mais je crois que l'action se planifie et le plaidoyer également autour de moments clés où nous pouvons avancer nos défis relevés, mais également les solutions qui sont discutées autour de la table. Donc, il y a MONDIACULT à la fin du mois à Barcelone. Donc, il serait intéressant qu'on puisse effectivement produire un résumé de ce webinaire, mais également un annexe avec des bonnes pratiques, c'est-à-dire des cas difficiles auxquels des solutions ont été trouvées sur la base notamment des recommandations de Hang, et de soulever aussi d'autres enjeux qui se positionnent. Je fais un exemple. Hang parlait justement de la question du langage, de mettre en avant que les résidences n'ont pas forcément une vocation à générer des revenus, et donc éviter que ça puisse être considéré comme du travail. Mais de plus en plus de résidences, notamment dans les cadres de projets de coopération au développement, impliquent comme objectif l'appui aux artistes à développer de nouveaux modèles économiques. Donc, on voit là encore une incohérence entre les objectifs des politiques de développement qui sont tout à fait pertinentes, c'est-à-dire que pour développer les secteurs culturels, il faut pouvoir diversifier les revenus des artistes, mais aussi des opérateurs culturels et des organisateurs, et les contraintes qui peuvent être fixées aux enjeux de mobilité dès qu'il s'agit de résidences pouvant être liées à des questions d'emploi. Donc, celle-ci me paraît une question très importante. Ça ne concerne pas par ailleurs que la coopération entre pays développés et pays en développement, même si tout le monde sait que culture et développement plaident pour qu'on arrête d'utiliser ces mots valises et qu'on renouvelle le vocabulaire de la coopération. Mais ça concerne aussi les échanges entre pays dits développés, notamment avec les exemples de la coopération avec l'Amérique du Nord qui deviennent de plus en plus difficiles. Le fait de faire un point sur les outils qui permettent de recenser les bonnes pratiques et les difficultés rencontrées, mais également les témoignages qui restent en attente de réponses et des solutions. Donc, il y a des outils qui existent, mais ils sont dispersés. Donc, comment est-ce qu'on pourrait réfléchir à un outil fédérateur où, effectivement, il est facile de repérer sur les questions de mobilité, difficultés rencontrées par les artistes, solutions trouvées, parce que ça peut être une boîte à outils pour les artistes afin, comme le disait Hang, de dire aux différents administrateurs qui traitent le dossier, ben, vous voyez, vous soulevez un problème, mais voici la solution qui a été trouvée ailleurs, mais également identifier des problèmes qui ne restent pas résolus. Et dernière suggestion, dernière deux suggestions au niveau des délégations européennes. Comme on sait que en ce moment, il y a des nouveaux fonds à la mobilité qui s'ouvrent avec l'Afrique subsaharienne, notamment dans le nouveau programme de coopération Afrique-Europe, avec un grand programme mobilité sur le modèle de Culture Moves Europe, de les alerter avant de toutes ces difficultés, donc d'alerter les gestionnaires de ce programme pour que eux-mêmes ils fassent un travail avec les délégations et que les délégations fassent un travail avec les ambassades pour faciliter l'obtention des visas par rapport à ce programme. Donc, d'agir en amont sur la base des difficultés déjà connues, plutôt que d'attendre que le problème se réalise. Et enfin, profiter de la prochaine réunion du comité intergouvernemental de la Convention de 2005 en février prochain, pour que cette question des mobilités et des solutions soit inscrite dans le plan de travail du prochain comité, suite à la conférence de parties qui a eu lieu en juin.
Merci beaucoup, Valeria. I switch back to my beautiful French English. And thanks again, Valeria. I am conscious of the time. Officially, we have 2 minutes left. Let's take 5 to have some maybe. I'm also conscious that Patrice Kayamba has a question. I'm not too sure that we will be able to address it, but we will continue the conversation as it will be mentioned by Celia later. But maybe, Celia, you want also to have the last word with Kelly and Pierre for this last round, since Hang already mentioned a few key points. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Marie. Indeed, I would like to thank you, Hang, for already sharing a lot of ideas, which have already been taken up by some reactions. I would like to invite Kelly and Pierre Claver for a last word. From their side, after having listened to the reactions, to comments, after having read the comments, please, Kelly, floor is yours first, and then I will give the floor to Pierre Claver.
Sure, thank you. Just to echo Valeria's comments that more study is required. We need more data. As Hang said, we need to act on evidence, and to flag that is a challenge for creative communities in general, because we're talking about people who work across so many different disciplines. In our case, in the Caribbean, we're talking about people who work across multiple countries. But, you know, there is an opportunity in the Caribbean where several countries have created creative registries, and those are already starting to be used for collective action, including in Jamaica, insurance. And perhaps through the use of those registries, there's an opportunity for more focused lobbying, data collection, and advocacy that can be used to pilot some initiatives and scale and replicate those. So I'll end with that suggestion.
Thank you very much, Kelly. I was really interested to hear about these creative registries. Thank you for sharing this information with all of us. And switching to French, Pierre Claver, est-ce que tu voudrais partager aussi une pensée de conclusion de ta part après cet échange que nous avons eu avec tes co-intervenants, mais aussi avec l'audience? Je pense que nous avons le même problème. Ok, c'est bon.
Alors, et là, en tout cas, merci beaucoup. Moi, je pense que il y a beaucoup d'efforts aussi qui ont été réalisés de part et d'autre. Quelques efforts qui ont été réalisés, peut-être qu'on peut aussi reconnaître. Moi, si je parle du coup de la mobilité, par exemple, pour ce qui est de l'Afrique, il y a de plus en plus des choses qui se sont décomptées. Et puis le reste, pas grand-chose. Quand j'ai parlé tout à l'heure de la mobilité dans une même sous-région, et ça, c'est des choses qui peuvent être décidées très rapidement. Et aussi, c'est nous, évidemment, pour reprendre ce qu'a dit Valéria aussi, c'est aussi nous qui devons reproduire les acteurs, les artistes qui doivent aussi faire remonter des espèces d'informations, d'éléments réels qu'on peut avoir sur le terrain pour que ça soit aussi remonté à un autre niveau. Donc, je crois que c'est aussi important de faire comme ça. Et sur ce qui est de la question des visas entre Afrique et Europe, il y a aussi quelque chose d'intéressant qui a été fait. J'ai senti un peu une petite stabilité et le moins d'humiliation et le moins de tracasserie pour certains professionnels et artistes qui ont commencé à recevoir des visas de circulation d'une année, de 2 ans, 3 ans, 4 ans avec multiples entrées. Ça fait que les gens ils sont un peu tranquilles. Et quand bien même vous terminez les 4 ans, Et c'est même facile. Moi, j'ai eu plus d'un cas où terminé plus de 4 ans, des amis qui m'ont dit que ça a été facile pour eux d'aller renouveler parce que, ben voilà, on a pratiquement plus des choses à démontrer par rapport à ça. Donc, moi, je pense aller vers ça, ça peut aussi vraiment beaucoup aider les choses. Voilà, merci.
Merci beaucoup, Pierre Claver, de finir aussi sur une note positive où tu reviens sur quelque chose que Han a mentionné. C'est vraiment cette question de confidence aussi qui est établie entre les artistes, les professionnels de la culture et les consulats, les ambassades, parce que il y a une coopération qui s'inscrit aussi dans la durée. So I will switch back to English for my concluding words. Thank you very much for being with us still. I would first of all like to thank, of course, the speakers, Han Nguyen, Pierre Claver Mabiala, and Kelly Magnus. I would also like to, for sharing your experience, your perspectives, rich perspectives, and also, of course, thank you to the participants for sharing experiences, for asking questions, for making recommendations. The organizing partners of the seminar will now prepare a final concise report, and we have also heard Valera's suggestion to have an annex to this report. This report will be submitted to UNESCO's MONDIACULT team. If you have any idea or resources that you would like to share with us for this report, please send these by the 22nd of September to the address mobility@onthemove.org, and I believe this address will be shared in the chat, as well as other resources and links that have already been shared in the chat, so there will be more to come now in the chat. I would like to thank the On the Move team for the support. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank my colleagues from the International Music Council, On the Move, Zone Franche, Pearl, Culture et Développement, Africalia. Thank you also to the European, and Mobiculture, bien sûr. Thank you also to the European Union for the support. And a big warm thank you to our two interpreters, Mohamed Briguesh and Yassine Oulamin. Before closing, please allow me to share a remark that was made by Ms. Derica Delaveau-Grant, who is the Director of Culture in the Bahamas Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, during a discussion on ways of rethinking cross-border cultural exchanges and mobility at the World Summit on Arts and Culture that was organized last May in Seoul by IFACA and the Korea Arts Council. And I'm thankful to Marie Le Sceau for sharing this remark actually with us before. Mobility is not a trend, but a tradition of travel, connections, and exchanges, with the crucial underlying idea that if this possibility of mobility is taken away, a part of our humanity and of course of our diversity is taken away. With this, let us work together to uphold our shared humanity and our shared diversity. Thank you very much.